Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to
Good
Extreme
evening.
Makeover. How y'all doing
Oh
today, Vic? What's
man,
going on, man of God?
man, it is great to be here, Pastor Palmas. Man, I'm incredibly excited about what Extreme Makeover Customer Service Edition has in store for us today.
Yeah, 1,000%, man. Listen, we want to welcome you. You did not click on this link by accident. I want
Not
to
at
give a
all.
special shout out to who we're going to hear from in just a moment. Our president, Elder William Winston, he just led our conference and letting us know the processes for reopening churches. And like I said, we'll hear from him in just a moment. But as we begin this journey to reopen our churches, this extreme makeover has been strategically planned so that as we're opening up our churches, we know how to operate from a customer service standpoint. So again, you didn't click this link by accident. Do me a favor, share this broadcast with
Do it.
everybody in your circle
Got
of
to.
influence. All right, you got to
Absolutely.
share this thing and do us a favor too. Like, let us know what state you're watching from in the chat section.
Who you
Go ahead and let us
repping?
know. I see
Adrian
Adrian right
College.
there, South Carolina,
Yeah.
Deerfield Beach. Who else we got, Vic? Gary Jones, Laurel, Maryland, Muskegee, Oklahoma. Who else we got watching us, Vic?
LaGrange, Jackson District, Georgia. Pastor Michael Shelton. We got Pastor Monty Newbill. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Carissa
That is
Lowe,
awesome.
ATL in the house.
Hey, Carissa, that is one of my members from the Decatur Church. How you doing, Carissa?
Awesome, awesome, awesome.
Well, yeah,
Tasha
guys.
R from so many people from all over the South Atlantic Conference. We have people from Maine, New York. Awesome, incredible, incredible. We're so glad so many have joined from all over. Customer service is such a very important topic, but honestly, it's not one that we've talked about enough when it comes to church, right? It's an idea that's related to business, but church has that feel. It has that. There's those benefits. There are those important components of customer service that are even in church that we want to glean and learn from, so that we can start. We can begin again the right way.
Yeah, that is awesome, man. And listen, as we continue on this journey tonight, listen, we are going to be giving away some cash money, right? Cash money
Hey,
tonight to two
yeah,
special people, right? So you want to make
absolutely.
sure you stay plugged in for the entire broadcast so that you can be eligible to receive what it is that we are giving you tonight. For real, like for real. If it were up to me, I wouldn't go anywhere. You want to make sure you stay plugged in. Rosemary, see you. Leslie Scurry, Austell, Georgia. Nicholas Griffin from
Simpsonville.
Simpsonville.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Karen
yeah.
Saunders from Stone Mountain of Georgia. The Rushing family from Pageland. Praise be to God. Super grateful to have each and every one of you on. Listen, customer service is so awesome. As Victor was
Yeah.
saying, when I think customer service, right, I'm reminded of the book by Jeff Henderson, Know What You're For. And Jeff Henderson used to be an executive for Chick-fil-A. He details a story in the book where he and his family were visiting the Ritz-Carlton Hotel here in Atlanta, Georgia. And as they were checking into the hotel, he was talking to the bell person and he said, "Hey, thank you for taking my bags." And that's where he first heard "my pleasure." Well, now Jeff Henderson says, "Wait a minute. Instead of you saying you're welcome, you said my pleasure. I wonder if I can implement that at Chick-fil-A. When you go to Chick-fil-A and you order your number one deluxe with a large size Arnold Palmer, come on, say amen, somebody, right?
Yes, sir.
And you
Yes,
say
sir.
thank you, they in turn say my pleasure.
My
When you
pleasure.
go to
Yeah.
Publix, the grocery store, they say my pleasure. As a matter of fact, in their commercials, they say it's our pleasure to serve you, right? And so I believe our church can learn a thing or two about customer service from these companies and these organizations, and we're definitely going to get into it tonight. But before we do, I want to introduce the
Absolutely.
president of the South Atlantic Conference, Elder William L. Winston. He's going to come and give us some special greetings at this time. Man of God, how are you doing today?
I am absolutely marvelous. Thank you for allowing me to say a word of greeting, Pastor Bartley, Pastor Palmas. Uh, you all look good on here, man. You all have.
I will appreciate that.
You taught us well, Doc.
Thank
You
you.
taught us well.
Thank you for doing that. Now, I want to welcome people. I saw the names and the places where people are from all around this nation. There are people who are on here from around the world. I believe you're going to have some people overseas who join us. This has been good. We are doing Extreme Makeover Customer Service Edition. So since I have the mic and I have the floor, I'm going to ask my question first. Long ago and far away, I used to work for a little country store called Sears Roebuck and Company. And Sears taught me, and it's still in my head, I can't get it out, that the customer is always right. I'm going to be listening because I want to answer to my question. Is that just old school? Is that, but it's entrenched in my brain that the customer is always right. I'm listening and I know somebody has an answer to my question. God bless you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for our guests. We've got guests from North Carolina and California, and we have hosts and panelists. It's going to be a good thing. I see that Pastor Austin Humpreys is a panelist today. I don't know if he's there, but Pastor Humphrey, when you come on, just give me a thumbs up to my question. Today is April.
Yes, sir.
Next Sabbath is May.
Yes, sir.
Then comes June.
Yes.
Is everything on schedule for June?
There's something big coming. Yeah, in June.
June.
That's
Okay,
coming soon. Just a few more weeks now, Elder.
We get a word from you. Hug the wife and tell her we all are praying for her. God bless you.
I appreciate that.
See all of you,
President.
God bless.
God bless. Thank you so much, man of God. And I believe you are going to get an answer to that question. We have amazing presenters tonight, which we will be introducing in a moment. As a matter of fact, if you would, let's jump into the first presentation. Victor, who do we have speaking to us today?
Absolutely. We have Pastor Robert Edwards, who's coming to us all the way from the Southern California Conference of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. He serves there as the vice president of the Black Work, and he has much to say to us about customer service. We want to bring him on now, and we want to begin to glean some of these gems from his presentation and from his expertise on the topic of customer service for church. Welcome, Pastor Robert Edwards. We're so glad to have you.
Good to be here. Good to be here. I just want to make a correction because I don't want my boss to think that I switched conferences. I'm with the Southeastern California Conference as Vice President of Black Ministries. But indeed, it is a pleasure to be here. And as we're dialoguing on customer service, I want to get to presentation so that later we can do question and answer. And we're talking about hospitality in a digital age, but I want to preface this by saying that these principles apply to in-person and digitally. So these are principles that you can take back as you are looking at reopening. We must understand as we look at hospitality that it is very, very important. One of my favorite authors, Dietrich Bonhoeffer, made a statement. His statement is, slide number 3, that the church is the church only when it exists for others. So I would start out by saying hospitality is an attitude that makes you aware that the church does not exist for you, it exists for others. And as a result, you must understand that customer service and hospitality because you are existing for others. Imagine a hotel that didn't exist for guests, but the whole nature of a hotel is the rooms are for guests. And everyone that is there to accommodate and serve the guests. But unfortunately, most of us attend church as if we are guests and we need to be served. But that's not what we call customer service, nor is it hospitality. The Bible makes it clear that from the biblical sense that we are to entertain strangers. And when we entertain strangers, then we are fulfilling God's summon for us to be hospitable. And so today I want to share a few nuggets with you. If you will go to slide number 10, we will start there with recognizing that when it comes to hospitality, slide number 10, that we are the front door. We are the front door. This is vitally important for us. A front door is not a physical function. It is a literal physical function. We are the front door. We practice the ministry of hospitality by greeting our brothers and our sisters, and that includes those we know and those we don't. And we do it at each service physically, but I'm going to show you later on how to do it digitally. So this principle applies both ways. We are the front door. We are the first impression others see when they walk through or when they go online, and we leave a lasting impression or depression for others when we work together to be hospitable. And you and I must understand that this is very important. We are the front door. Not that physical door that you have that you pay much money for, but that door into a view of who God is and what he's like, the service that we offer. We are that front door. Next slide says, here's what the Bible says. The Bible makes us aware that hospitality is a mark of Christian discipleship. It's a quality of Christian community. It's a concrete expression of commitment to grow in Christ likeness by seeing ourselves as part of the community of faith, not to be served, but to serve. Matthew 20:28. And so this explains to us once again that concept that we are the door. We are the door. Unfortunately, sometimes we push people out the door. We become those who are guarding the door and warding people off. But B says hospitality is all through Scripture. We begin this journey in Deuteronomy. God reminds the people of Israel to welcome the stranger, the sojourner, the wanderer. And then he tells you why. For you were strangers in the land of Egypt. So he's reminding them, don't forget where you came from. All right? Don't forget where you came from. Don't forget what I did for you. Don't forget where I found you. So as I treated you and as warm and welcoming as I am, and let me tell you, God is one of the best customer service deliverers I've ever known. He delivers breath in your lung. He delivers blood in your vein. You woke up, I hope, this morning in your right mind. Like the old Baptists used to say, you didn't wake up on your cooling board, because God is a good customer service person. And so we are to do and be likewise. We're going to go down to slide number 16. And here's why I'm going to give you some practical things that I want you to take a look at. It is clear that we are in customer service. We are to be hospitable. But what I want to demonstrate to you today is what we call the 11-minute difference. And this is where I want to show you some ways that you can be hospitable online. And once again, you can take that principle and apply it to in person. And there are 7 checkpoints to what we call great customer experience at church. But here's what you must understand. You have 11 minutes because the first-time guest will decide within 11 minutes whether or not they're going to click back on to your church or whether they're going to attend your church again. 11 minutes. I want you to remember that. 11 minutes. I'll repeat that again. 11 minutes. And the reason being, if we go to the next slide, is you must understand that in that 11 minutes, there are some things that are taking place. And if you take advantage of the 11 minutes, it's going to lead you somewhere. First of all, you got to understand that when it comes to people visiting your site or visiting your physical church, you will have more guests in 1 year than you think. See, I think sometimes we haven't approached it in a strategic manner. If I were George W. Bush years ago, you got to use strategery. You got to have strategy to understand what guests mean to you. And many of us have more guests than we think. It's just that often we don't have a system in place to process or gather that information and let it benefit us. And, in the world, they will take that information and determine what kind of product they need to produce. But what we do with that information is say, you fit into my product. I only offer one product, and you fit into it, versus evaluating the information and targeting your product based on the needs of the guests that you receive. Our information gathering in churches doesn't even capture the majority of our guests. Most of us don't have a good system. We may have a book that's never systematically reviewed. We don't operate that way. Research shows that 5 to 8% of your worshiping community will identify themselves as guests. And therefore, the number of guests in 1 year is more than you think. If you multiply 5% times 52 Sabbaths, it tells you how many guests you probably are going to have come through your church. But if I were to ask you how many are processed, how many become permanent, you probably don't have a formula or a system to help you with that. Number two, many of your guests are going through situations that make them more responsive to God. I learned this a long time ago. Stop taking credit for what God set up. In other words, often that person's experience is intersecting with your church or your church member. And so you're meeting at that access point. God is bringing you together, and God is the one who does the work. He prepares the work, but we must take advantage of what God has prepared. And so your guests are folk that are most likely to be moving, changing jobs, getting divorced, having kids, struggling. They may be drawn to the church by prior working of the Holy Spirit in their hearts, and they are not an average cross-section of the population. They are people who probably need you. They need you and are coming to have that need met. And you must do that within 11 minutes. Your guests are assessing very quickly, number three, whether or not they are coming back. And this happens, as I said, much faster than you think. It happens within 11 minutes. So let's look at some things. The next slide. First of all, you want to make first impressions count. Want to make first impressions count. If you're interested in a young lady, you want to make first impressions count. I remember my wife came to visit me, and I decided I was going to prepare dinner for her. I was interested in her. We weren't girlfriend, boyfriend. I knew she was somebody that I liked, so I wanted to make a first impression. I prepared a dinner. I had croissants. I had eggplant parmesan. I had a salad. I had a nice little non-alcoholic drink, and I fed that girl, and that girl was impressed. But I made a mistake. I forgot to throw away the boxes that I bought the food in. But I was trying to make that first impression. So first impressions do count. And this is what you want to know when it comes to your guests. Authentically, you want to welcome new people. You don't want phony folk online or in person greeting your people. Next slide. You got to know who you are. And when I say who am I in relationship to the mission of God? The mission of God. Who am I? And you need to pick people who understand who they are as it relates to the mission of God. For instance, mean people think that they are the guardians of the church. That's who they think they are. You don't need that as a greeter, because they're not going to greet. They won't greet properly. They will offend. So a person has to be clear in who they are and have to work within their gifts. Next slide. Who are you? Okay. So what happened is you have to take a moment to embody Christian hospitality and greeting one another. You got to see if you embody that, or if the person embodies that. Too often we're just looking for volunteers. And the person who volunteers is usually the person who doesn't have the gift. But often in church, we say, well, somebody's got to do it, and he's willing, he or she is willing. I pastored for a number of years, and I'll never forget one year, I reduced the number of positions that I had, because if I couldn't find a person who had the ability or the gift to do it, then we eliminated it. We didn't just do it for paper purposes that we were filling these positions. We could only fill what God had gifted us to have. And so you've got to make sure that the person you use, the individuals, embody Christian hospitality. And we're going to go to slide number 22. How would you define a genuine welcome? How would you find a genuine welcome? Well, I experienced one. One day, my wife had a friend whose husband attends a First Day Church, and he was getting ordained. He invited us to come to his ordination. 8 o'clock in the morning, 8 a.m., we went to support him. So we get out the car, we park on the street, and when we get out the car, there was a car about 2 cars ahead of us. A family got out. By the time I got my wife out the car and we proceeded to the sidewalk, this family was near us. That family made sure to welcome us, to greet us. Hello, how are you doing today? It's good to see you. As we were walking up the sidewalk to the church steps, there was a gentleman out there directing traffic. That gentleman held his hand up and stopped traffic to turn around and say, hello, how are you doing today? It's good to see you. You see, theirs was so genuine that when I got to the top of the step, anybody who saw me spoke to me. When I got to the lobby, anybody who saw me spoke to me. But now I'm going to show you genuine welcome. My wife and I sat on the last row of the sanctuary. I sat on the end, she sat next to me. In comes members. Do you know that if the member passed me, they would turn around to speak to me? They literally, so here's my back. They could walk past me and we never make eye contact. But they stopped, turned around, and greeted me. I was like, if I wasn't employed by the Seventh-day Adventist Church and already a member, I probably would join that church. Hadn't heard nothing, no music, no nothing. But the genuineness of their welcome was so impressive. So let's go through a step, both for online and offline. We're going to start with slide number 21. We're going to do what you call the 7-minute pre-service. We're going to do a pre-service. And here's what I mean. So go to the next slide. The pre-service is your first opportunity to interact with everyone who sets foot either online or in person. It is your first opportunity. That's your pre-service. Everyone who sets foot online or in person. Okay. And what are you communicating before the service begins? So I remember we got on here and right before we came on, they had music playing, or it had some conversation going. The reality is, what are you doing prior to? They come onto your site. Is there just a blank screen? Is there nothing? Or do you have information processing through slides that are coming through with music in the background? That's part of your pre-service. What do you do? Your first opportunity to interact with them. Next slide. There are 4 areas of contact through which you can influence your guests during the pre-service. And this will go along to making the first impression. Here are the 4 things. They must be greeted. They must be directed. They must be treated. And they must be seated. Okay? Or occupied. All right? So let's go through those 4 real quick because time is running out. Number 1, on next slide, it says greeted. Everything speaks to first guest. Everything. Okay? Everything speaks to the first time guest. So on your site, if you are getting first time guests, which you have a way in your system for people to say they are first time guests, you must have a process of greeting them that lets them know you are aware or acknowledging them. Whether you ask them to take an action. If you are a first-time guest, could you put it in the chat? Could you click below? Could you do this or do that? Could you raise your hand? Could you go into the reaction and put a thumbs up? In other words, you're acknowledging that they are there, even digitally. Of course, when they come into your church, then that means your people greeting. And, I've gone to churches where you can sit on a pew and nobody in the pew will even acknowledge you. But people ought to be reaching over people, turning around behind them, reaching up from behind them. This is part of your pre-service. This is the setup. If I were in a concert, you are the setup for what the pastor is about to do, the main presenter. All right. Number 2, next slide, you must be directed, meaning that when they come into your site or whether they're in your church, there must be clear directions, signs everywhere. You got to know where they are going. If they come to your site and have no idea how to navigate it, then you have not given them direction. They come into your site and all the hallways are just plain, and they walk in and there's nobody out there hospitable, or there's no customer service. How would they know where to go? They don't know where the bathroom is. They don't know where the children's class. They don't know where the adult class. They have no idea if you have not posted signs. So digitally and physically, you must give direction. Click here, go there, see this, whatever the case may be, you've got to give direction. Then number 3, you got to treat them. Guests want to feel like guests, special guests. Okay. They want to feel that when they come into your church. It's like when people come to our home, I don't want them to feel at home, not from a negative standpoint. I want them to feel like a guest who will end up feeling at home. So there's that I gotta make them feel good as a guest so that they can begin to become home. This can be home for them. They feel a part of home. And you only have, as I said, 11 minutes to do that. And then last but not least, they got to be seated. Our goal is to remove barriers so that the message isn't lost before it could be found. Okay? So when you get the wrong people, or you don't help your church, or you don't have a team of people online who understand that, then they could get the wrong message before the message actually can be found. So as we close out, I want you to go to slide number 44. And we're going to look at some practical, physical things that you need to do. And I'll go through those very quickly, and then we will close out. Online, you got to make sure, and this may seem small, but it's one of the most important things that you could have. You got to make sure you have strong internet signal. Okay? If you don't have strong internet signal, if I were in a church, I would say, you got to make sure you have good sound. So many of our churches, the sound is lousy. All right. But you got to make sure you have strong internet service. Nothing is more frustrating than getting knocked off or getting frustrated with online stuff not working. You got to make sure you have strong internet service. Number 2, you've got to give opportunity, next slide, to engage the audience. I tell you again, you've got to have engagement. You don't want them just to watch and you don't ask anything. I remember as an evangelist, and even growing up looking at evangelists, we found out that one of the ways to help people make the big decision is to ask them to make little decisions along the way. So you've got to engage them. Raise your hand, click here, right there, comment here, chat here. You've got to make them do something and get used to it so that they are engaging. You got to have an engaging worship. This is a part of these tips to help you online or digitally. And then number 3, you got to help them make decisions. You got to ask for decisions. Okay. If you remember, Christ gave this statement in Ministry of Healing: Christ's method alone brings true success. And then it talked about the things that he did, mingled with others, and all of these things. And then it ended with, then he bade them to follow me. So this is about getting them to follow, but you got to take those pre-steps in order to get them there. And then last but not least, you've got to have online hosts and greeters, pleasant people who know the importance and know how to take advantage of online. And last but not least, you've got to have contextual and relevant illustrations and examples. So one of the final considerations is how to use contextual and relevant illustration and examples during your online worship. In most cases, these are low-hanging fruit that can be easily added while preaching a sermon or doing a presentation. You can help welcome to your worship experience. And so we want to make sure that we do these things, because as we worship online together, our spirits, the last slide, our spirits will be more fully fed as we engage more in worship. And ultimately, that is the goal, to grow deeper in relationship with God and with one another, take a step out and become a more welcoming online or physical church. Thank you.
My.
Wow.
What a
That was
presentation. Thank you
Incredible.
so much, Pastor
Thank you.
Edwards, for dropping that wealth of knowledge on us. We have some special panelists that we'd like to bring on at this time that can just help us dissect the meat of the information you just gave to us. I want to bring Pastors Aaron Abernathy, Austin Humpreys, no stranger to us. They're going to come at this time. But I also would like to bring on Jasmine Best. Jasmine Best is a senior accountant for the Allegheny West Conference. And I want to start with you, Jasmine, if you would be so kind. Tell us what you just learned from that presentation by Pastor Edwards.
Well, thank you so much. Again, it's a pleasure to be here. I learned that you must participate in parking lot ministry. Now, parking lots are definitely going to look different because we're mainly online, but every little thing matters. If you have tackled the small items, you will definitely handle the large ones. And when I say small, I just mean things that people really may not pay attention to initially. You can be ministered to just by looking at how someone keeps the initial things that you're looking at. Is their parking lot clean? When you go to their website, does it look like they want you to click through and learn more about them?
Good.
There are so many things that we they kind of fall by the wayside, but they are so key in just greeting people. And those nonverbal things are powerful.
Oh, nonverbal is people underestimate the power of nonverbal communication. Austin, when Pastor Edwards started the conversation and said, "We are the door." Come on, what did that mean for you, man?
Well, a couple of things, and Elder Edwards, a great presentation, because I appreciate how relevant you made that for a lot of folk that walk into our doors. One of the immediate things I thought about, man, is that do our churches really know that? Like, do we really know that we are the door?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That the first line of defense isn't the sermon.
Right.
That the first, it's not going to be the song, but it's going to be those who are in the pews, those who they greet at the door. We know this stat to be true, that 80% of people stay at church, not by the preacher or the song, but by the experience they have in the pews and with the members. And I kind of want to put this question on Elder Edwards and talk about this, is that how much training is needed, do you think, especially as we move into the season of hybrid ministry, online, church, when we look at drive-in service? Talk to us a little bit, Doc, if you can, really quickly, just about how important it is for us pastors and lay leaders and elders. Talk to us about the importance of taking our time to train to get the little things right, as Jasmine just mentioned.
Well, I'm about to drop something on you that you probably haven't thought of. Often, one of the reasons why training is not as effective as it should be is because the structure that we have to a degree is outdated.
Mercy,
So
God.
you keep trying to train people in a structure that is not relevant. So you're not talking about training. You've got to change the nature Okay. So what I did several years ago, I came up with this idea. I got frustrated with all these nominating committees, small and large committees, tiny churches having small and large committees.
My
Like
God.
ain't nothing large about you. All right.
Right.
So I redesigned a system. I put in place a system, and you can train within that system. But we're trying to train within a broken system. So what I did is I broke my church down into what I call 4 areas. So in my church, we only had 4 areas. Watch this: in-reach, outreach, hospitality, and administration.
Wow.
There was nothing else.
That's
Tell
good.
me something.
That's
Tell
good.
me something I missed there. There's
Right,
nothing.
Right.
So every member was expected to be in in-reach and outreach. Every member. Hospitality was the principle that we are the door. Okay, so we expected everyone to be hospitable. Somebody sit by you, speak. Reach across and shake
Yes.
hands.
Come on,
Greet,
speak.
no matter
Don't act
who.
like you got rocks
I
in your
always-
jaw. Speak.
I
Right.
always had
Yeah.
this thing. If I didn't wake up with you this morning, you ought to speak to me.
Yeah.
Man,
good.
All right.
that thing is
That's
so,
strong.
man.
Yes.
That's strong.
golly.
So now I would tell you, training in a broken system is difficult. So I think we need to look at training within a system. Imagine a dysfunctional company talking about training for something. It's not going to happen because the system needs to be changed so that when you're training, everything is pointing towards that way. So what I did, all we were doing was ministry.
Wow.
Right.
So
Yeah.
whatever position you held in that, it was pointing to ministry. Even in administration, it was pointing towards that. So I think you have to put it in the context that we need to revamp some things and do training within revamped systems. But in the system that we have now, we have too many chiefs and not enough Indians.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
Powerful.
And I see an awesome question there in the chat section. And I want to encourage those watching via Facebook and or YouTube to go ahead and leave your question in the chat section. Dialogue with us. We're talking about customer service. Shirley Oliver says, how do you keep well-meaning members from sabotaging your efforts to get visitors to return to your church by their conversations with the visitors? Can you talk to that, Pastor Edwards?
Yes, and I go again. There are 2 things. Number one, as I said, the church needs to be functioning within a system. So basically, you've made a clear statement. Here's the expectation, right? So let's say you have somebody that's like that. Then we've got to make sure we take action. Now, I want you to follow me. Titus makes it clear that if you got a disagreeable brother, go to him once, go to him twice, but after that, boot the Negroes out.
Come on. Oh, come on.
Okay?
Come on, preacher.
We keep giving license to mistreatment.
That's good. That's
We
good, Doc.
keep
That's
giving
good.
license to mistreatment, and we never hold them accountable.
Ooh,
That's deep.
That's good.
So
That's
there
deep.
has to be within the system a way to hold accountable, and there's an expectation that this is not happening up in here.
Now, Doc, you said something that it just piqued my interest, and it went back to what you said earlier. You said you can't feel what God has not gifted you with.
Right.
Talk to us about a small.
Ooh, I wanted that question. He
I
gone.
know. Let's see. Let's see if we get him back on. But Doc, I think what he was trying to ask you was
is that the rapture?
that.
Was one taken and the other left?
Hey,
That's the Left Behind series.
Hey, listen. While that question is coming, you talking about undoing broken systems. That idea that you introduced about genuine welcome, like people hear that term, but have so many different ideas about what that means. Like, how do you undo some of the toxic ideas about what a genuine welcome is?
Yeah. So I'll go back again. I think when I did that, what I did was called restructuring for effective ministry. So basically, we restructured for ministry, not membership, but for ministry. So this attitude flowed throughout that church. Let me tell you how deep it was. when we got ready to vote on a Sabbath morning, what we decided, the way that it worked, I've never experienced this in all my ministry.
Okay.
Praise and worship broke out over a nominating committee report. Because I took a period of time to help lead you there, 6 months, where we went through a process of talking this thing, of sharing this thing, of having members to sign up, of pushing this thing. So it was not an overnight thing. It took 6 to 8 months of processing and talking. So all we did was talking. We and so we talked it and talked it. And so what happened is, and this was the outcome, we ended up with over 90% participation.
Wow.
Incredible.
That's good.
So
Incredible.
So once again, you can't do it in a broken system because of what you just mentioned, the kind of people. We only had 3 people to vote against it. And these were 3 who just didn't want change. But their voices weren't loud enough to even be heard amongst the shouting.
Wow.
So shout them out.
Wow.
Hey, Pastor Abernathy, before you were taken up to glory,
Yeah. Hey, listen, man. I don't know. I don't know.
Hey, the Lord threw Aaron back down.
Come on.
They got it wrong.
I have work to do. You threw me back down. Listen, Doc, my question was for the small church that is, say you're a 5-member, 12-member church, a very, very small context. For those that don't particularly have the gifting to be the greeter or the usher or to be that first line of defense, or are not gifted in the way that they don't have the gifts to place personnel in those areas, them being so important and so necessary for the I guess growth and overall image of the church. What would you say to those small churches and how they can accomplish making it a warm environment, even though they don't have those typical first line of defense personnel in their situation?
Okay, so let me just a little background. I started out in small churches, so I had 3 of them at one time. So how was I able to get them to be a hospitable church? By example.
Mercy.
I'm just being honest. By example. I was enthusiastic. I talked about it. I greeted everybody. And after a while, it caught on. It wasn't seminars. It was example. And so what ends up happening is churches take on the personalities of their leaders.
Mercy.
So you're trying to make your church hospitable, but you're not hospitable.
That's gospel, right?
That's so true.
That's
so
true.
true.
So they take on the personality of the pastor. So if that pastor is not hospitable, that pastor is not a greeter, that pastor goes to their office when church is over, if that pastor doesn't walk out in the lobby or walk through the sanctuary or call people out, hey, before you leave, you know you got to speak to me. If they don't demonstrate that, you can do all the training you want.
Action.
Because they'll be no better than their leader. So that's the first step. The second one is gifts can be obtained.
Okay.
So yeah, you may not have it now because it's probably uncovered. It's not uncovered.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
But so the gift. So when I say the gift, I mean that person may not be able to do it online. But if blood is running warm through your vein, you can do it in person. Okay, so there's no such thing as I'm just not a hospital person. Well, go, right? The reality is, why wouldn't you be? As kind as God has been to you,
my Lord,
He told you to show that same kindness. So He didn't say go get the gift. He said, listen, do unto others as I have done unto you. So it's not a thing of your whole congregation should be that way.
Right.
And sometimes they're not that way. Watch this, because they might be like the lion who was about to eat the mouse, and the mouse turned around and said, Mr. Lion, please don't eat me. I know what your problem is. And the lion paused and said, what? And he turned around and said, you got a thorn in your paw.
Mercy.
So sometimes people have thorns.
Jesus.
And if we don't discover why they're mean,
Mercy.
Ooh,
why they
that's
act
so
like they
good.
act,
Mercy.
then it ain't just
Symptomatic.
about
God,
praying for
help.
Brother Jones or praying for Sister Jones.
Oh,
It is about
man.
discovering why
Mercy.
are they like that.
Wow, wow.
Wow.
Jesus.
Hey, Pastor
Ooh.
Edwards, you
Mm.
have dropped a master class on customer
Yeah.
Yes,
service
sir.
for us.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
We want to keep going on, but we must transition. We want to thank you so much for the presentation that you provided, the additional information that you dropped on us in this dialogue that we've just shared in. And we want to thank our panelists for also the questions, the comments that are also coming in from the audience. We want to encourage you to continue to do that, even as we transition to our next guest presenter. We will be having now Ms. LaTanya Jackson, who will be coming to us from the UPS corporate office. She's an HR manager. She is a campus recruiter and in inclusion and diversity. She's going to talk to us a little bit more about customer service as it relates to Extreme Makeover in church. We welcome you. We welcome you, Ms. Jackson, to
Thank
the
you.
Extreme
Thank you.
Makeover edition here.
It is a pleasure to be with you. I'm grateful for the invitation.
Thank you so much, sir,
You
for
know, I
being
love
here.
South Atlantic. For the sake of time, and I know time has been well spent, I'll try to condense what I had planned to say. But as the gentleman stated, my name is LaTanya Jackson, and I work for UPS. UPS has been in existence for 114 years. And I am happy to say that I've been a part of them for 34 of those years. A wonderful corporation whose business objective is only to provide service. And what I'm going to just talk about a little bit is to compare the business aspect of my positions when I was in sales to the church's objective as well. On the first slide I put up, I want to talk about, just to give a brief definition of what customer service is. Customer service is the support you offer your customers, both before and after they buy or use your products or services. That helps them have an easy and enjoyable present experience with you. Offering amazing customer service is important if you want to retain customers and grow your business. UPS is a company that we don't have a product. The only thing that we are selling is our service. And when you relate that to our churches, the same thing. We don't have a product to sell. We are offering our service and an experience and an encounter that the customer will want to come back. When I was in sales, my marketing strategy was simple. The objective was to win new business, to maintain and retain the business that I do have, and to do everything from keeping my competition from coming and take my business through the back door. The church is the same way. You have both internal and external customers. The external customers from a salesperson is who I'm trying to woo into the doors of UPS. And the church should be trying to woo new members into its doors. Right now, the competition is steep. From a church aspect, we're all, let's say, fighting for the same audience. And now with COVID, how much can you market on Facebook or the other platforms? You're fighting for audience. So you have to distinguish yourself from the competition. So the main things that I want to talk about, there are really 4 points. The objective is to achieve a win. From a sales perspective, I'm trying to achieve a win, to achieve new business. From the church's perspective, you should be trying to achieve or win new souls. Win new souls. The accountability piece to that is, and this will answer Elder Winston's question, no, the customer is not always right. The customer is not always right. In UPS's standpoint, from the example that perhaps the customer did not package the package the proper way. and in transit, the package may have experienced some damage. Well, the first point about accountability is if it was something that UPS did, we assume responsibility for it. If it's something the customer should have been different, we educate. So from a church perspective, accountability, we have to accept the things that we were good at, our successes, and we also have to accept when we have failed. And when you have failed, part of being accountable is fixing that. And in the sales world, we call that service recovery. UPS last year delivered 6.3 billion packages and letters. That's a lot of packages, and that we delivered correctly. But we're not perfect. No carrier is perfect. The thing is, when we do make a mistake, that we go back and fix that in the customer's eyes. Because what a customer will do is you will go around and you will tell about the negative experience. UPS lost my package. UPS did this. And if you have had that experience, it is the Sabbath. So we're not entertaining complaints at this time. But I'll talk to you later offline about that. But one thing is, as a church, we're not perfect either. So when you recognize that there is a glitch in your system, the appropriate things to do is to be accountable to that and address where those glitches took place and make the customer whole. So how can you make your customer whole? That is my objective, because if not, they won't come back. UPS has been in existence for 114 years. So we've been doing something right when it comes to customer service and retaining our customers and trying to get new customers. The second or the third one is assignments. Sales is not a one-man show. The conference is not a one-man show. Your church is not a one-man show. So you don't have one person in the sales part. As far as I'm concerned, when I'm out there trying to win the business, I recognize that I'm the face to the customer, but I'm counting on my partners to do their parts to make the customer experience go well. The same thing at the church. You have assignments, you have deacons, you have ushers, you have greeters. So everybody needs to know your role, first of all, and then stay in your lane. Know your role and stay in your lane. With a company, it's better for me to have insight as to how the whole organization works. When it comes to UPS, I started off when I was part-time in college, loading them, unloading the boxes for 4 years. And then I was a driver for 2 years. So I had to provide customer service from that aspect. And then I went into management and had different positions, from human resources to sales for the last 13 years, and now back into human resources. It allows me to know the company and how we operate. You need to know your church and how you operate. Know what's the proper procedure for reporting things or getting things done. And then I'll say to advertise your company. Again, if a customer has a negative experience, they're going to go tell 10 people. Nobody's going to walk around and say, oh, you know what? UPS delivered my package today. Well, they expected us to deliver it. So as a church, there's some expectations that a visitor has. They expect you to be nice. They expect you to be courteous. And if I can be transparent, when it comes to advertising your brand or your company or your church, I would have to say our church is probably the only organization that I have seen that will negatively advertise your complaints or your concerns on a social media platform. If I went out and bad UPS, do you think I would have a job? And why would someone who would want to hear about a negative experience at your church want to come back? But I've seen things on Facebook that we will talk trash about our church, but yet you want to invite somebody to come to it. Nobody wants to come to your church when you've aired your dirty laundry out on Facebook with a mixed audience of, and on a side note, I also attend a divinity school that's not mixed denominations. I've never seen a different denomination put their dirty laundry on Facebook and go back and forth and argue with that. If I saw that, I wouldn't want to come to your church. So those are some just types of things. Also, customer service is about relationships, meeting and greeting. One thing I do at my church is I'm just a very hospitable person, I'd like to think. So I love to cook, and my door is always open. If we see guests at church, I'll extend an invitation to my home. For example, one Sabbath, I was directing the children's choir, and there was a couple sitting behind me, and I was introducing myself to them. And I said, I'm back here talking to y'all, and it's time for me to be up there with the kids. So just laughing, I didn't know them from a can of paint. And I extended an invitation to my home. When church ended, I rushed home. And then when they came in, I had other house guests, and I said, I would introduce you to these people, but I don't know who they are. I said, all I know is they cut up in our church. And they came and they ate and they had fellowship. And they told me that was the difference between them going to visit other churches and joining our church. So customer service is about relationships. It's about having a brand, establishing yourself, being warm and inviting, but most importantly, being caring. You would not want to treat someone any way that you would not want to be treated. If not, they won't come back. If I went out and treated my customers any kind of way with UPS, I could not retain them. And in the times where UPS may have made an exception and a package was damaged or something like that, because of the relationship the customer had with me, they didn't just leave the company. But if I didn't have a relationship with them, it's easy for them to divorce me and go to another carrier. So as a church family, we want to be warm and embracing and not make it so easy for a member to want to divorce your congregation after only visiting a short time. So that kind of sums up what I wanted to say. It would probably be better. And an audience, if you agree with some of the things I'm saying, put it in the chat. If you have recommendations, as our hosts come on and ask me any questions that they would like to, for the sake of time, I hope I've said a lot and made it clear, but at the same time, get us back on track.
Well, I can tell you one thing, Ms. Latanya, that there are several individuals in the chat who are just giving you virtual amens and virtual fist bumps, elbow bumps, and high fives. People saying you talking good. Thank you for saying that. Say that again. Wow, powerful. Say it again, right? That's the theme that we're getting right now in our chat section. Listen. One thing, and I want to just dialogue about this for a moment, and I want to bring us back on as well to talk about what we just learned from Ms. Latanya. One thing I want to talk about is this. So we are in this society now where we have sites like Yelp, right? And Open Table and all these places that we can go and leave reviews for our favorite restaurants, our favorite, auto mechanic place, establishments, what have you. And it is encouraged when we have a positive experience to go and leave a review. Or if we have a negative experience, we want to leave a negative review and let people know, do not go to this restaurant. The score was a 79, right? or whatever it was. The hostess was bad, right? So naturally people flock to social media and say, hey, pre-pandemic, I visited this church and my experience was phenomenal, or my experience wasn't the best. So how do we train our people to give us positive reviews in this online space without bashing us as well? Like, we don't want to lead them, do we?
Well, the thing is, you don't have to train people to give you a positive review. You just have to give them a positive experience. Then they will share that experience.
Yeah.
You don't have to train me how to answer it. Just give me a good experience.
That's good.
There you go.
Good.
That's good.
That's good.
That's powerful.
Good.
That's powerful.
That's good.
As you were talking, and we'll engage you as well as the panelists on this. again, you as well are hitting on something that Pastor Edwards talks about, really just rerouting our way of thinking as it relates to customer service. Because generally, if we can be honest, we think of winning people to Christ as a solely spiritual thing. You're talking about strategy now.
Yeah.
You're talking about strategy, intentional strategy.
Intentional
What are
strategy,
ways?
yeah.
What are ways that you would recommend implementing these in small steps within churches? I know that they've worked for UPS, right? They've worked for UPS, but for churches, how would you implement just one step that they can start beginning to rethink the way that they look at the 4 A's that you talked about?
Actually, it would be similar to what Pastor Edwards stated. Look at your point of contacts, the deacons in the parking lot, whoever opens the door, whoever the greeter is that takes their name, and make sure that you have somebody to say something to them while they're in the pew. Because how many times have you gone to visit a church and outside of that, nobody said anything to you, nobody invited you home? And I don't care if it's a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, you just want the fellowship. You know, it doesn't have to be fancy. Just invite me home. Let me turn you down versus for me to go to your church and say nobody even invited me home.
Right.
It's different if I don't want to come, but if I was never extended an invitation, you go get a negative review.
Wow. Fellowship over fancy. Fellowship over fancy. That's hashtag.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have to ask this question because you're speaking about being hospitable, and I think that's so important, especially when it comes to making people feel welcome in a church. But how important do you see being hospitable as it pertains to soul winning? Because in my mind and in my experience, I've seen where we have the arrogance so much so that we have the truth. We don't have to be nice. We just have to do this Bible study or we have to get people in a pool. How much is being hospitable important when it comes to actual soul winning, people making decisions for Christ?
Well, I would tell you to go back and examine every one of your revivals. Where we're just hospitable to get them in, and then after they got there,
say
nobody
that
else said anything.
again.
Mercy.
Say that again.
So
We hear.
Just like with UPS, your objective is to win the business, to win the souls. But then after you win them, you got to maintain what you got, or you set yourself up to be an easy prey for the competitors to come in and steal your business. It's a fight out there. We're fighting for the same audience of people. So what do you have different that's going to make them stay in your house?
Yo, I gotta go ahead, Jasmine. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, my apologies.
No, please.
One of the things that I'm linking that to is what you said about the internal and external customers or clients. And when I think about the level of care that we're extending to the people that we want to come into our doors, what level of care are we extending to our current members? The current membership, is this a fakery? Or are we really trying to show who we are by how we're interacting with other people? A lot of people always say, what you do at home will come out in public. So are we showing that same level to the people who have been in our pews for decades?
Not only that, but you have to realize you have two types of members in your audience. You've got those that have been born and raised in the church and coming out of routine. They ain't going nowhere. They had no encounters. And forgive me for not speaking properly. Then you have those that have recently come into the church. So you got a mixed bag of people that you have to attend to find some way to get everybody to motivate your gift. If you know gifted hospitality is not your thing, then don't assign that person to the core. And don't let them volunteer either. And somebody has to, this is the accountability piece. The accountability piece is somebody has to have the hard conversation to tell everybody that's not your gift.
Quality control.
You might be better, and you don't have to say it harshly, of course, but to help them see that I could use you better over here. You have to navigate
Redirect.
Reassign. That's good.
That's so good.
Listen, I got to jump in here and say this too, as I think you touched on a very touchy topic that we don't like to talk about much, but there's a difference between revival mode church and just regular church. And I want to speak to something that's really critical here, because when you think about just hospitality in general, you all know going to certain stores, when you're in a big superstore, you're looking for something and you may ask if you can find one of the attendants. Sometimes I just hate going to Lowe's because you can never find somebody, but when you ask them for something specific, they'll tell you it's down aisle 13 on the left on the last rack, right? Yeah. But if you ever have gone to Publix before, and as busy as they can be, if you find an associate that's busy, they will not only tell you where it is, what they'll decide to do is walk you to the aisle, pick it out for you, and make sure things are okay. And I think one of the things that's so critical is that even though Publix is more expensive, the experience is just so much better that I'm willing to pay a little bit more to get exactly what I need. And I think that a lot of times when we're getting ready for revival and we'll bring in the artist and we'll bring in different things and have different fun stuff, knowing that might not be the identity of what church looks like after the revival is over. And I think beyond that, what you just said is including the hospitality. Like we cannot just empower. I want to speak to our younger pastors especially, well, just in general. Look, we can't just have greeters for revival. We got to have greeters, all the time. We can't just have a hospitality staff. Vic, am I? Do you feel me, bro?
No.
We can't get into this space where it's like only when we have revival is when we train our people to do stuff.
Nice, you know what I'm saying? We're only nice once a year.
Only nice once a year.
That's if we do revivals once a year.
That's it. Yeah. So I think that's a great point, because and the community can smell it. They know. The community knows, man. It's just
So
I think one thing people, come on, Latonya.
To keep your house, you know how sometimes we could put that extra clean on it, but then you got the regular clean. And the regular clean, anybody can come and go. So you need to keep your house regular at all points, that it doesn't have, you get spruced up for special occasions, but on an off day, it feels like home. Home does not have to be fancy, but it has to be consistent and it has to be genuine. People can sense when you are faking it with them, that your hospitality. No, we don't want a spirit of two-facedness to start off their experience, and we don't want to be. We want to allow the Holy Spirit to do the refining, and nobody's assignment is to check the guests. No, you don't have a checker for, you got earrings on, so you
mercy.
Check your skirt is not too long enough, so you reassign that person. Let them know that's not their job. That's not their job. And let the Holy Spirit nurture them. All you need to give them is a warm, hospitable environment and allow them to grow. Everybody's coming in at different stages and different encounters. And like Elder Edward say, sometimes we take credit for God's work, but they came into the church broken. So they're just looking for somebody to just help hold them up right now so they can stand on their own, not to tear them down. But you have to also have somebody that has discernment to recognize that you could be in a room of people and you know how you've been into it so long that you don't notice the pictures on the wall because you see them every day. That you could get tunnel vision to your environment, that nothing stands out to you. And you don't ever want to remember a guest to come in and don't feel like they stood out or nobody saw me. I was there, but I was unseen.
Right.
And we do that with our regular members. Sometimes members come to church hurting and nobody's discernment is kicking in to engage them. Sis, you good today? You good? You sure?
Right.
You all right? Anything I can help you with? It has to be a genuine.
We have to go beyond the happy Sabbath.
Right.
Because Sabbath
I literally hate these church welcomes because they're so fake. Right? You got 5, maybe 7 minutes to walk around your sanctuary. And of course, this was pre-pandemic. And you go to people, hey, how are you? But you don't really stop to listen to how they're doing. You want to go talk to the person who's across the way. You know what I mean? And if somebody really stops you to tell you, man, really, I've been having a bad week. Okay,
You
tell
got
that to
time.
somebody else. Go to the altar during
Wow.
prayer. Tell it to Jesus.
Wow.
But I thought you just asked me how I was doing. Right. So
Mhm.
if we're gonna do it, we got to do it for real. Because like Austin says, if it don't pass the sniff test, they're not coming back.
Come on.
And then another thing, if you get somebody that got the nerve to come back and walk through those doors, don't let the first question be like, "Where you been?"
Wow. Wow.
Oh man,
I
talk
Just be
about
miss
it.
glad.
you.
Just
I
be glad.
miss you.
To,
That's
Sure,
something. I'm like,
sure,
just be
You're
glad.
kicking up dust.
Yeah.
You messing up settled soil now.
Yeah, this is, and you know what though? I do want to say this because I think that's important too about the where you been. We ain't seen you in a
Yep.
while. Versus just saying we're so glad you're here. We've
Yeah.
missed you. I think engaging folk. It's the experience that we
Right.
have to have. And Jasmine, I'm interested in, as I know your background a little bit in terms of you worked for the church now, but you've also been in corporate America a little bit and just kind of seen how that thing works. I do think that we as people are really in the comment section wanting to know in corporate America, you working in some of these businesses, what have you learned in terms of what those first impressions really mean in terms of just when they first come into the doors?
Well, first impressions are everything. And when I say first impressions, I don't mean just the customer coming in. I mean you sitting at that desk. I have been a receptionist, and you are the first person sometimes that people see when they're walking through the door. And people want to know, how are they treating the person who may be the lowest to them on the totem pole? So it is imperative that you're just showing a level of care, regardless of what your stage is, what your title is, and where you are, in the hierarchy system. I think I have a good friend, and her name is Keisha Bone, and she says to me all the time, Jasmine, you cannot pay people to care. They either will or they won't. And that is from the front door, from the parking lot, all the way up to the CEO. You know when someone cares and when they don't. And in corporate America, it's key that everyone knows that everyone is a client. You are here to serve everyone, no matter how high you may be up on the totem pole or how low. Service and the level of care is everything.
Wow.
I agree.
Yeah,
That got me thinking, Austin,
Yeah.
of packaging. Miss
Yes.
Jackson works
Yeah.
at UPS. Can you imagine if you ordered a package and it was delivered to your door in a garbage bag
Yeah.
Mercy.
or a brown
Wow.
paper bag?
Presentation.
Yeah.
And like you're
Say that,
looking at the
Abernathy.
package. I just ordered like $1,000 camera or something like that, and you brought it in a garbage bag.
Yeah.
It's the same way with the gospel. The gospel is so valuable.
Gotta be patient.
But if we don't put that thing in something that's shiny and nice
Yes.
and attractive, that thing is going to be ugly. And hospitality, I believe, is absolutely a packaging that we have to put the gospel in. It's
Yeah.
absolute.
Yes.
No,
You can't
absolutely.
put the gospel in garbage bags
Right.
or on a dinner plate with rat droppings on it. We have to put the gospel in something attractive to a world that we're trying to win.
You know what, Abernathy? I think that's such a good point, and I want to piggyback on what you're saying. Our president's in the background right now. He just made a statement previously from our last stream talking about it, even when it. Now, I want to talk to those who are still watching, even though we've been discussing going back into the building. Some of the practice online we can't shift away from, and I think one of the things that is going to be so critical is that we've got to give effort. The president said if we're not relevant, and if we're not doing things that's strong online, they have a thing on their phone. They can click and go see something else. But now is going to be more true when we get back into the space. If they come back thinking and they say to themselves, this is the same thing before the pandemic. Where I can just go back home and I can go watch so-and-so be a part of something else.
Right.
And so let's take this time, Darrell, to your point, because they can sniff it out. Let's take this time to really ask the folk how they're doing. Because what I will say is, and this is important, everybody, because we understand that people are one moment away from a breakdown, and especially after the pandemic, is one thing's been big has just been mental health. But when folk come back into our buildings, or whether they continue to watch us online or do Bible studies on Tuesday nights and different things on Friday and Monday, whatever the case may be, is that are you okay? How are you doing? And connecting even outside of the digital and church space. Pick up that phone, connect with certain folk, call folk who have registered for your programs to check in. I think all of those things are critical. But Abernathy, you're right. It's the packaging, because the gospel is attractive. Jesus Christ is still attractive. The cross is still attractive. We believe in the message. We've got so many great things that we can push, but it's how we're packaging it. Vic, I think that makes a difference. And Vic, for you, being a father, a husband, and you understand how big packaging is for those who are going to come back into the doors, families who are going to continue to watch. It can't be the same thing. Do you agree, Vic?
Oh man, my kids are changing every day, man. So the importance of this is powerful. It's powerful, and everything that everyone has shared. I was just reading an article that was saying that customer service conveys the values, the brand name, as well as the mission. And so if our customer service, no matter what we say, like if our customer service is not telling what we're saying out of our mouth, then we aren't really doing that. And you all have just really nailed that, put that really on blast for us to really get a clear picture of that, because it matters. It matters. It matters.
Hey, can I say this one point real quick? This is from our media tech bishop. I call him of media, Kirk Nugent, who's in the background. He says, here's his comment, if we can fit it in. The camera quality is my suit in the pandemic. The camera quality is the suit in the pandemic. Wow. Listen, saints of God, man. And I think I said this recently, man. Listen, we understand that everybody can't have all the largest and best tech stuff, but we can put the effort in. Those of you all who have got major churches and major houses with all this budget, it's a travesty, man. If you're not willing to put that effort, when people are more likely to click on the screen. Number one, if the sound is fantastic, but first and foremost, if what they see on the screen, you know what I'm saying? If it's quality, it's we see so many people who have partnered in the pandemic. So many folk do different things, and a part of why there's been such folk have been able to sustain ministries, do different things, is because of the quality they are presenting. So it's not just enough. We cannot, I say it again, we cannot lose the flavor and the fervor we've gained in the online space and lose it when we go back. We've got to couple the two together. Right. Kirk, man, that was a great point. I know you're in the background, but Kirk, that was hot. Darrell, go ahead, man.
But hang on. So you're talking about somebody who's been, prior to me being in pastoral ministry, I've been in IT for 20 plus years. Mercy. And it doesn't matter if you have a large church or a small church. There are little adjustments that you can do to increase your presentation online. And so I don't want to hear the fact that you don't have the budget of a Potter's House or a Lakewood Church, and so you can't provide a professional live stream. There are different adjustments you can make, and it's a simple YouTube video, or feel free to contract with
YouTube University.
YouTube University.
That's it.
Myself, there are so many people who are willing to train you. If all you have is a laptop webcam, we can show you how to hook up a mic to that thing so you can sound better. We can show you how you can get a little $20 light and look better on screen, right? And so it just takes a willingness to put in the work. And the sad reality is most churches aren't willing to put in the work. Why? Because they've been doing things for so many years. This is right. Done it this way, and we don't like to change. If you don't change or adapt, sadly, you die.
Hey guys, I got to get this comment because I see it. I know, Miss Jackson, you have got the chat buzzing and on fire. And this question was actually addressed to you. I want to get this from Pastor Kenneth Boswell. Can you expand a little more on talking negatively about your church on social media? Just talk about that if you can. Just kind of read.
I hate to say it, but our denomination is famous for it.
Jesus.
I'm in class with people from every other denomination. When I look on their social media pages, nobody is bashing their church. I don't care what they got going on in it. It's not on a social platform where you got non-members looking at that. And why would they want to come see that? You could go pontificate your feelings someplace else, and that's all social media is for a place to voice an opinion. But just like with UPS, There's a process for everything. There's a process to get your issues addressed. So learn the process of your organization and go through that. Don't use social media as a platform to spew out things that half of them cannot validate what's being said. It's just an opinion, and everybody's got one. I got my 2 cents worth, but it doesn't mean anything if it's not used in the proper channels. So all I was going to say again, remember my A's: achieve the win, go and win the souls, be accountable for them. And accountability is being accountable. Yeah, I got the win. All accountability is, yes, I messed this up. So what's the game plan when we mess up a person's experience? How do we recover that person back? Everybody know your assignments. Give assignments based on your skill set, and then positively advertise your church's experience so that people will want to come back into the venue.
Absolutely.
What a rich experience. What a rich conversation tonight. I want to thank you, Latanya, Jasmine, our panelists, Aaron Abernathy, Austin Humpreys, Pastor Edward, for really jumping in and teaching us this past hour. I want to bring on our president, William Winston, and I also see our ministerial director, Elder Calvin Preston, online. I just want you guys to jump in and give us your thoughts and opinions.
I know you got some gifts that are burning your pocket to give away. I don't want to take up that time, but can I give a homework assignment?
Please, sure. Please, Mr. President.
Practice customer service at home.
Come on.
Yes.
Oh, Chief.
Yeah, that's good.
If you can do it at home with the people that you're supposed to be loving, and be nice to them, and it'll be so much nicer to be nice to other people. That's my. I'm shutting up.
That's good.
That's a drop the mic right there. That's good.
Simple and to the point.
That's from our president right there. That's it.
That's it. Press, what say you, man?
Listen, this has been awesome. From the Ministerial Department of the South Atlantic Conference, we thank each one of you. It was more than we could dream of.
Yeah.
We dealt with what our church needed to deal with. We addressed it, and praise God for it. To those who are listening, I hope, as the old folks would say, this conversation is not fallen on deaf ears or hard hearts, right? But that we go out and make a difference. We've got the gospel. We've got the gospel. I mean, there's no question about the gospel. We just got to tighten up a little bit on those who handle the gospel. May God bless us, and may God keep each one of us and use us for his glory. Humphreys, do the giveaway real quickly.
Yeah, listen, I'm gonna leave it to our great host today, Darrell, Vic. Man, we got $50, two $50 cash prize to give away. Doc, it's on you all. Let us know. Give the folks something to answer in the chat, man. We'll get out of your way, but go ahead and do that for us, man.
Thank you all.
Well,
thank you.
Let's work backwards. Again, I want to thank all of our panelists. I want to thank our esteemed presenters for joining us tonight. Time out of your schedule to train us and teach us in the ways of customer service and how it doesn't just apply to the business world, but it also applies in our churches as well. Let's work backwards a little bit. And I'm going to start with Latanya's presentation. And the question that I want you to answer in the chat, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube, is this. What is the business objective of UPS? All right, this is at the very beginning of Latanya's presentation. What is the business objective of UPS? First person to put that in the chat will win one of our $50 gift cards. Let's see. Do we need to put some Jeopardy music on? We don't want to belabor this thing, but the first person write that in the chat. We cannot delay. No delay. First person we see in the chat wins. Let's see. Bishop Nugent, if you would, tell us who the first person in the chat is, the winner of our first giveaway tonight. I see several of them in the chat, so I just need a little assistance in identifying who was the first one. And I see several correct answers in the chat as well. Lee Otis Paris, is that who it is? That was the first comment I saw on the scene. Lee Otis Paris via YouTube. You are our winner. Here's what I need you to do. Congrats.
Congrats.
To you, Lee Otis Paris. I need you to do me a favor and look at the ticker that's scrolling on the bottom of your screen. Lee Otis, I need you to email SAC Treasury at sacsda.org in order to receive your gift. It will be in the mail as soon as possible. Email SAC Treasury to sacsda.org. Vic, let's get one more giveaway.
Congrats. Yeah, man. I was about to say, don't leave me out, man. Pastor Edwards had such a tremendous presentation. He talked about the genuine welcome, and he mentioned 4 things that people need to do when others join their space, whether virtual or in person. He said 4 things. He listed 4 things. What are those 4 things that must be done to welcome people genuinely? 4 things. You need all 4 to get this $50 now. You need all 4. You need all 4. What are those 4 things that Pastor Edwards spoke about in this presentation that need to be done for every guest?
Yep. And the first person to respond will win
let's see who.
a $50 gift card. Who is that first person? And one of the things that I would like to just suggest, man, we talked about Chick-fil-A, right? We talked about some of these establishments, Publix and Ritz and McDonald's and all these places. Do we have a winner?
We do. Sir Manu, greeted, treated, directed, and seated. Absolutely.
Yes, in order.
in order. The GTDS. That's awesome. Well, yeah, please again, the same instructions for you, Sir Manu. Please email SAC Treasury at sacsda.org to receive your gift. Please do that promptly because we don't want to redirect your gift. No, we won't do that. But please make sure that you email SAC Treasury at sda.org. Thank you so much for your participation. Go ahead, Pastor Palmes.
No, Vic, as we close this thing out, man, I just want to get one major nugget that you were able to glean from tonight.
Customer service can't be overlooked anymore. It just cannot be overlooked. It must be priority in the same way that it's said that evangelism must be center. Customer service has got to take up a seat next to that.
Yeah,
right. That idea of customer service must be priority. It can't take a back seat. It can't be an afterthought. It can't be haphazard. It can't be just a mere suggestion. It's got to be woven and interlocking with the culture of every congregation, of every disciple's mindset as it relates to doing the work of Christ.
Yeah, that's good. And the thing I got, man, is simply this: competition is fierce out here, whether it is the virtual competition or in person. Once we resume, the reality is there is another church down the street or across the link, so to speak, that is better than you. Don't let another ministry outwork you. Right? Provide the best experience that you can provide in your context. And I promise you, man, you will grow by leaps and bounds. As we close, I want to give our ministerial director, Calvin Preston, the final word tonight. Thank you again to everyone who watched this broadcast live, who will watch the replay, who shared this broadcast, and who dialogued with us in the chat. We love each and every one of you. The Lord bless you. The Lord keep you. Dr. Preston, close us out, man of God.
From Patriots, you need to read this. Patriots and Prophet, page 237, paragraph 2. Prophet and Kings, page 237. Those who profess to be followers of Christ and are at the same time rough, unkind, and uncourteous have not learned of Jesus. Their sincerity may not be questioned or doubted. Their uprightness may not be questioned. But sincerity and uprightness will not atone for a lack of kindness and courtesy. Boy, the prophetess wrote this years ago. Prophet and Kings, page 237, paragraph 2. As we close, let me give you a save the date. July the 18th through the 30th will be a conference-wide evangelistic meeting right here on site. July 18th through the 31st, the conference-wide evangelistic meeting. Dr. Snell from First Church in Huntsville will be our evangelists. Invite all of your friends. You'll be hearing more and more about it in the upcoming days and weeks. But put that down on your calendar and join us for a time of your life, July the 18th through the 31st, conference-wide evangelistic meeting. Thank you so much. Who's closing with prayer?
Let's close out.
Thank you.
Yeah. You want to close out, Vic? Go ahead, sir.
Go ahead. Thank you, Pastor Preston, for those reminders and those alerts for us. Let's pray. Lord, we thank you that you came to serve us. We ask that you will continue to take the seeds that were planted tonight, that they may grow and be fruitful as we become better customer service representatives for you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. God bless you, everyone. Thanks again for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your
Peace
Saturday.
and blessings.